I'm Elamin Abdul Mahmoud, and this is Pop Chat. And today we are talking about the memification of Breonna Taylor and how celebrities have taken up her cause. Plus, social media has been this place of doom and gloom during the pandemic, and now a new Netflix documentary says we need to delete all of it. That is all on Pop Chat today. Breonna is not a meme or a headline or a hashtag. She was someone's daughter, grandbaby, friend, and future fiance. Those are the words of journalist and former Teen Vogue editor-in-chief Elaine Welteroth. She was talking about Breonna Taylor, of course, and since her death, her name and image have become this kind of rallying cry for anti-racism protesters and activists. And then there have been these countless memes that featured her image that have been shared on Instagram, on Twitter, and on TikTok. Has this memification of Breonna Taylor erased her actual personhood? What kind of effect has it had on her actual case? Let me start with you, Stacey. Why has Breonna Taylor become this cultural touchstone, you think?
So I think two things. The first is that this story is so tragic. Like, if you can hear that this young woman with a bright future and plans for her life was shot by police officers while sleeping in her bed, if you can't see how what an injustice that is, then I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm obviously very emotional about it. But I think there's that, right? It's incredibly tragic. The problem when we talk about victims of police violence is often that we require them to be perfect victims or good victims. And so, that's a problem in general. We don't need to be good people to deserve like not being shot by the police. But in this case, she couldn't have done anything wrong, right? She couldn't have been fighting back.
Hmm.
She couldn't have been like doing whatever it is to make police scared and justified in shooting her because she was asleep. So I think that has a big part of it. But the other part, I don't think we can understate how important it is, the role that Black women played in making sure that we all knew Breonna Taylor's name, right? Because, and that is part of the Say Her Name movement, which is this also social media campaign. It was started by Kimberly Crenshaw, who's also the academic and the lawyer who coined the term intersectionality. And for Kimberly Crenshaw and for, Black women and women of color in general, there's a tragedy, a particular tragedy when Black women are killed by police because their stories don't go viral in the same way.
That the format of the meme almost became like a modern day kind of rickroll, if you will. People would try to sort of hide it in places that you wouldn't expect.
So I think initially it started off as just being repurposing of quite well-known meme formats. So one of the popular ones was cited in a few articles was like Hey Arthur, or was it this like Arthur related memes where they would kind of like take the song and then add at the end they would add and arrest the three cops that killed Breonna Taylor. Um, and then it sort of expanded into, so like the ones that I had seen mostly on Instagram were from influencers who were like doing makeup tutorials, and then midway through the makeup tutorial they would kind of just like mention, arrest the three cops that killed Breonna Taylor. And it came at an interesting time because I think in the wake of like the George Floyd killing and the protests, I think there was lots of conversation about what is the role of influencers and what is the role of social media and stuff when it comes to highlighting injustices, because if they have lots of followers who are willing to like ride for them, then surely this is like a moral responsibility on their behalf. So I think this was very much like that conversation being tried to play out. But what had ended up happening, or like what we ended up seeing, was like actually influencers, even though influencers may have like this audience that responds to them and responds to the content that they put out, at the same time their ability to bring about like to kind of facilitate a societal change is very limited. So they're basically using the methods that they know, which is how you manipulate an algorithm or how you kind of like feed into a particular trend, and they were trying to disrupt those trends by using the logic of the systems that they benefited from and that they still benefit from in terms of their career.
I'm wondering, Angelina, like what do we lose in the focus about someone's life when their death becomes a meme like this?
I think it's the same phenomenon that happens on the internet with lots of things where things get flattened, they get reduced to their most basic sort of trite form, and then that's how they go viral. So we lose nuance, we lose humanity, we actually lose like a rich discussion, as lots of people had pointed out. What are we talking about? Abolishing the police? Do we want to reform the police? Like, what are these, when we say arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor, like, what does that mean? What's your actual opinion?
What I want people to know is that everything they're doing online is being watched, is being tracked, is being measured. Every single action you take is carefully monitored and recorded. Exactly what image you stop and look at, for how long you look at it. Oh yeah, seriously, for how long you look at it.
That is one of many, let's say, disturbing, honestly terrifying moments from this new documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma. The doc kind of is built around these really delicious behind-the-scenes looks at the very intentional decisions that social media networks made in order to make us so addicted to the thing. Let's get into it. I'm going to start with Hussein. Tell me about your initial reaction as an extremely online person to watching this doc.
I was disappointed with this, partly because I think that it was very, very overhyped. For like not really giving a lot of information. I also think it doesn't really answer its own question. So it starts off with this premise of like social media platforms are very addictive, and that addiction is used to harvest your data, and that data can like have real human impacts, and that can result with like, you know, death or the destruction of a democracy, and sometimes destructions of a country. These are all really, really interesting things, but then they sort of like leave it flat. So there's a period of time when they kind of talk about the algorithm, but they don't really go beyond that. They just kind of say, yeah, there's this algorithm that's there and it like does some stuff.
Yeah, I felt like it was someone telling me, to Hussein's point, how they ruined my life without apologizing or telling me how to fix it. It was like, thanks for this self-congratulatory schlock.
They're very sorry.
They're not sorry. Did they ever
I
say
think
sorry?
Tristan is sorry.
Why? Did he? But he
I don't know.
didn't
He just
say
seemed
it.
really sad all the time.
I wanted tears. I wanted remorse. I wanted some sense of like, you guys aren't talking head experts separate from this problem. You are the problem.
Yeah. There was this like this idea, they float the idea that the algorithm is not politically neutral, but then they don't do anything about it, or they don't even explain how the algorithm came to be. So like, I wonder who was in the room when you were deciding what kind of content to, you know, to make sure that rises to the top, or like, you know, what kind of people are identified in photos, or like who? I can't imagine, which obviously I can. But the other thing too is that this idea of who the documentary is for, I really felt that in that incredibly irritating docudrama radicalization of that boy, because it felt like they were conflating the far right and the far left, and those are not the same type. Like that, they don't have the same energy.
Thank you to my panelists, Hussein Kesvani, Stacey Lee Kong, and Angelina Chapin, for joining today on Pop Chat, the show where we try our best to help make sense of the cultural drama blowing up the internet. I am your host, Elamin Abdulmahmoud. Let's do this again next week, shall we?